It seems unless Michelle and Barack are being actively adored and lavished with praise and accomplishments, she gets a little bitter.
Megyn Kelly has frequently weighed in on Michelle Obama, often critiquing the media's glowing portrayal of the former First Lady and questioning her political influence.
See, Michelle and Kamala want to decide when you have enough. How much wealth is enough for you? And it's not until others have enough.
And it's not until others have enough. Kelly has argued that Michelle Obama is treated as an untouchable figure by the press, enjoying a level of protection that conservative women never receive.
Michelle lamented that most of us, quote, don't get to change the rules, so we always win. You mean like changing the voting laws in Pennsylvania?
She believes the media refuses to challenge Michelle on any of her statements or actions, instead portraying her as an inspirational figure without subjecting her to serious scrutiny. Well, last night was night 2 of the Democratic National Convention, and the Democrats rolled out their biggest stars, their heaviest hitters, Michelle and Barack Obama, who were clearly put on Tuesday to enthuse their voters, but also to keep them far enough away from Kamala's remarks on Thursday that no one's thinking about the contrast in ability. And boy, do the Obamas have ability. They are great speakers, great at least on prompter. They can read speeches other people wrote for them with all of the appropriate dramatics, tone, moments of emphasis. And it helps when you start off already a god before the audience that you are addressing, right? You go in there with such goodwill, they're ready, whatever you say. You could have been like, pineapple, pineapple. They'd be cheering the same way. But they were substantive that you can't take away. Whether they were truthful is a different story. And of course, the obvious dynamic there last night was that many of the problems they were lamenting went unsolved and were even exacerbated during Barack Obama's 8 years as president, not to mention later again when his vice president, Joe Biden, became the top dog. This multimillionaire who went to Princeton and Harvard Law School, who became First Lady of the United States, who thought so much of herself she called her own memoir, Becoming Double Anandra, get it? That she's hopeless. Makes sense since she said it wasn't until her husband was nominated for president that she'd ever felt proud of her country. So she's got a bit of a negative Nelly problem. Privately, let us not forget the incompetence and the corruption, the chaos that was the cornerstone of his entire 4 years in office. Let's start with the pandemic. Remember how woefully unprepared he was? How he was sowing seeds of fear and confusion, endangering lives with his lies and ignorance, denigrating the doctors and scientists trying to help us. You want to talk about plans? Well, my husband left him a very detailed pandemic plan. I'm deeply concerned, and I'm talking to everybody out there, that too many of us are still confused and buying into the lies and distortions from people who do not have our best interest at heart. That's right. So I want to address some of these concerns head on because when you lay out the options, this choice isn't even close. But whether it's online or in the media or in our social circles, there are folks who say they're not sure about Kamala. They accuse her of not providing enough policy detail. Some wonder, do we really know her? Is she too aggressive? Is she not aggressive enough? There are folks sowing seeds of doubt about whether she's who she appears to be. Now, don't get me wrong, voters have every right to ask hard questions of any candidate seeking office. But can someone tell me why we are once again holding Kamala to a higher standard than her opponent? And what are the odds, for those of you still wondering what hand Obama had in this coup or this ouster, that Michelle Obama kept her feelings to herself? Or that her husband didn't share in them? Or that her husband saw Joe Biden's chances as absolutely terrific? All right, anyway, they're happy now. Joyful, even. Were the night of the convention, of the election, joyful. And, of course, on brand, hopeful. They are the party of hope and joy. Hope and joy, got it? Pay no attention to the babies being aborted outside of their convention. That's also hopeful and joyful. But in America, we encourage people to work hard on the promise that anything is possible. The American dream is you can make more of your life than you started out with. There's no addendum that says once you have what you need, what the government deems enough, you need to stop per the U.S. government. This is just like her husband. Remember Joe the plumber in 2008? That story dominated the news for weeks, months even. Poor Joe died an early death at age 49 years later, but in 2008 he was the news cycle because he confronted Barack Obama on a rope line about the fact that he worked very hard for over a decade to build his business, and now that he was just starting to edge up, he was looking at expanding. He was about to get hit with a Barack Obama tax, an additional tax increase, and they had this exchange on a rope line where he asked Barack Obama, then candidate Barack Obama, about this tax hike. Obama defended his tax hike, saying he wants to spread the wealth around. He wanted plumbers like Joe to pay for other people. Barack Obama later admitted on camera that, quote, "I do think at a certain point you've made enough money. That's how these people think." They adorn this principle in nice language like, "We need to make sure everyone has enough." And what they mean is they need to take money from the people who have worked hard and succeeded and give it to others who may not have worked hard in comparison, who may not have done anything. Yes, there may be some people who have fallen on hard times, and we have a social safety net for them, but this mindset is a little socialistic. That's the truth. If you're one of our service members, our veterans, or military families, who is going to value your service and sacrifice? Is it Donald Trump, who has called those who gave their lives for our country suckers and losers? Or is it Kamala Harris, who I guarantee you will honor your commitment to the ideals we all share with every fiber in her being? And if you are a mother who has lost sleep worrying if your son could be the victim of a nightmare traffic stop gone bad, if you've ever been out there marching and weeping for justice, who do you think is going to have your back? Is it Donald Trump, who once took out a full-page ad to demonize innocent young black teenagers in New York City, who has dreamed openly about his own version of a purge where, in his words, he has said for one day, one real rough, nasty day, he will allow cops to use violence indiscriminately, who, I'm sure, has never spent a single second thinking about the lives on the other end of those batons? Or is it Kamala Harris, who understands the anguish in these interactions and has the experience that shows us that, yes, it is possible to keep our community safe and keep innocent people out of harm's way? Speaking about Kamala, and as she was drawing the contrast between Trump and Kamala, Michelle said that she understands Kamala understands that most of us will never be afforded the grace of failing forward. Kamala knows that she literally just got elevated to the nominee for president after not winning a single primary in a country in which she has record-low approval ratings and in which most of her own party, including you reportedly, Michelle, did not want her or think she could handle the job of president. It feels a little like failing forward to me. Michelle went on, saying Kamala, unlike Trump, understands that most of us, quote, will never benefit from the affirmative action of generational wealth. You mean like your kids, who definitely got into their Ivy League schools thanks entirely to their own merit, I'm sure. So how much is enough money, according to the Obamas? 70 million? Because public reports estimate that that is their net worth, parlayed on the back of Barack Obama's 14 years of holding political office. He did not spend 50 years in government service. He did a stint in the Illinois State Senate. He did a couple of years in the U.S. Senate before he ran for office and won. All right, then he did 2 terms as president, and off of that, he's made himself over $100 million, almost $100 million, probably over, to be honest. We don't know all of the earnings. The Obamas reportedly own 4, count them, for luxury properties, a home in Martha's Vineyard estimated to be worth some $20 million, in addition to properties in Washington, D.C., reportedly bought for $8.1 million, beachfront home in Hawaii reportedly bought for $8.7 million, and a home bought in Chicago for $1.65 million. Is that more than you need, Mr. Obama? Mrs. Obama?